I'm Bill Haggerty. I'm so pleased today to honor our veterans. Though we'll never be able to repay your debt of service, I want you to know how much you are appreciated by all of us. My father served in the Coast Guard during the Korean War. He was stationed at Wake Island in the Pacific. He taught me the meaning of service and the true meaning of love of country. We also appreciate the sacrifice that you've made for our nation. And as your senator, I'll work my heart out to make certain that we repay that debt of service and make sure you have the resources and the benefits you so deserve. I also want to thank Cookeville High School, the students and the staff, for continuing to put on this great event to honor our veterans. Thank you so much for your service to our nation. Please know that we all appreciate you, and may God bless.
Good evening. I'm Randy Porter, Mayor of Putnam County, and I want to welcome you to the Cookeville High School's annual Veterans Recognition Ceremony. You know, 2020 has been a tough year for Putnam County, especially with the tornado back in March that devastated so many lives. Then COVID has caused a lot of our events to have to be canceled, but not this one. I want to thank Colonel Nikki Philpo, the Junior ROTC, and all the Cookeville High School students and staff who are making this online virtual ceremony possible. You know, we love our veterans here in Putnam County, and we always want to show them the love, respect, and recognition that they are due for serving our country. So please enjoy tonight's ceremony. And if you see one of our veterans, please take the time to stop and tell them thank you. May God continue to bless all of our veterans in Putnam County.
Hello everyone, my name is Max Pettit and I'm the Executive Principal at Cookeville High School. And on behalf of Putnam County Schools and Cookeville High School, we certainly want to thank you for observing our Veterans Day program. I know Colonel Philpo has worked very hard, as well as some of his students. I also want to recognize our band and chorus program and our color guard and our JROTC participants and thank them for their involvement here. We're very honored and proud to play a part in this observation of our veterans. We certainly do appreciate everything that everyone has done, and we certainly are dedicated to letting you know that through this program. So again, thank you very much and welcome to Cookeville High School.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Audrey Birdwell, Student Body President here at Cookeville High School, and I will be your host today for our very special 2020 Veterans Day Observance Program. I would like to welcome all of you, but most importantly, I would like to welcome the veterans of our great community and nation. And now, I would like to introduce Cadet Major Jacob Norrod to officially get our program started.
Please bow your heads for the prayer. Most loving Heavenly Father, we would like to join together and express our thanks for the opportunity to participate in this evening's acknowledgement and recognition of our great American veterans. We thank you for the chance to come together with these wonderful veterans, our special guests, and our fellow CHS students, faculty, and staff. Bless those that are dear to us and help them to understand our gratitude to them for all they do for us. We pray for a very special blessing for all of us as we face the unique challenges presented to our community during this pandemic situation. We ask for a special blessing for the memory of all our great American citizens that participated in this epic effort to preserve freedom throughout the entire world. And certainly, Lord, we humbly ask for your blessings for all our veterans of all conflicts and their tremendous efforts and service to this great nation. Help us to forever remember those guardians who stood in harm's way to protect all of our loved ones and us. Bless and keep those guardians of liberty and their loved ones, just as they blessed us with their service in the name of freedom. Amen.
veterans of the armed forces as a small token of our appreciation and thanks for sacrificing their personal aspirations and safety to procure and protect our great nation. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Tallis Newman, a CHS senior that holds the rank of Cadet Lieutenant Colonel. Tallis is the battalion commander of RJROTC's Cavalier Battalion. Also with us today is Cadet Captain Adrian Morak, the Cavalier Battalion's Operations Officer.
It is an honor for us to welcome our special guest to CHS today to help us understand exactly how veterans in our community view the significance of Veterans Day and military service. We are honored to have with us today Mr. Charles Matika, Mr. Jason Murphy, Mr. Scott Smith, and Colonel Bobby Barham. JROTC Cadet Adrian Morak, Audrey Birdwell, and I will be asking these fine Americans a few questions about their experiences as both members of our community and their military service. Let us begin by asking each of you to respond to the first question. We will start with you, Mr. Smith. Which branch of service were you in? What was your military job? Where and when did you serve, and for how long?
Okay. My name is Scott Smith. I was Air Force. I was in the rank of a major when I got out. I served from 2001 to 2012. Stateside bases, I started at Langley Air Force Base in Virginia, moved to McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey, and ended up in Fairchild, which is in Washington, Spokane, Washington. Deployed both out of Iraq and Afghanistan.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes, sir. Thank you. My name is Jason Murphy, retired Master Sergeant. I joined the Air Force in 1992, right after I graduated from Cookeville High School, and was a loadmaster on C-130s, then became an instructor loadmaster at Little Rock Air Force Base. Then I was fortunate to receive an assignment to come home as the active duty Air Force recruiter here in Cookeville, Tennessee from 98 to 2002. Then I decided to cross over from active duty Air Force into the Air National Guard, and was a computer systems operator with a top secret unit with an SCI top secret clearance from 2002 until I retired in 2012.
Mr. Matika?
Chuck Matika. I initially enlisted in the United States Army after I finished my first year of college. I'd run out of money, and I was looking for a way to pay for the rest of my college. So I looked at the Army recruiters, and the Army offered me the smallest enlistment for 2 years active duty, and $7,400 with a special program. They didn't have the GI Bill back then, so I had to use the Veterans Educational Assistance Program. I enlisted in the military as an infantryman, served in a scout platoon and a company clerk. Got out and went back to college. I was having a good time and got recalled for a summer. In 30 days, they sent me to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. This was in 1982. And I got to serve in my first actual rifle platoon. They made me a fire team leader in an infantry squad. And I really enjoyed being back in the Army again for that summer. So when I got done with that, I went back to my college and signed up for ROTC, and was fortunate enough to get a commission as a second lieutenant on a direct commission, an active duty commission, and served as a platoon leader of tanks, scouts, and a cavalry platoon leader. Served as a staff officer at battalion, squadron, regiment, and installation command. Was fortunate to command a tank company, a regimental headquarters troop. Served as a trainer at the National Training Center and with the Battle Command Training Program in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, Training Division and Corps staffs. I ended up in 2003, my last assignment, as basically one of the assistant G3s in the 5th Corps staff as we invaded Iraq. I was in their future ops planning cell. And I had a good time in my 23 plus years in the military.
Colonel Parham?
My career started out in the Guard in 1944, where I was 16 years old in high school. And the National Guard had been activated prior to that time. And so they decided they needed some security force, and they recruited a bunch of us high school boys to become the Guard. And we were called to active duty one time during that two-year period, and that was a race riot in Columbia, Tennessee. Quick as I became 18, I joined the Army, and it was the regular Army. I was an RA, and as they called it then, a buck private. As far as my jobs were concerned, they were quite varied, because I served as an enlisted man in World War II under the Pacific Theater of Operations Commander, General MacArthur. And once I came back from overseas in the occupation duty of Japan, I went back to the farm in Sequatchie Valley, where I was reared, and had a hard time adjusting to civilian life. And I often wanted to go back and thought about re-enlisting back into the military. So a couple of my football buddies were with me one day in the car, and they were in the Navy. I won't hold that against them, but they were in the Navy. And they were convincing me that I should go to school on the GI Bill. That wasn't very close in my mind at that time, but the more I thought about it, I decided then I would try it out. So I went to TPI, as it was called in that time, in Cookeville here. And in June of '51, I received a BS degree after 3 years of college here. The ROTC program had started in 1950, so the last year of my college year, I joined the ROTC program. That year in June, I graduated with a BS degree in 1951. In July, I received a commission as second lieutenant in the Signal Corps. In August of '51, I was called back to active duty. And there, as being an officer, I stayed 30 more years. I retired in 1981 with 34 years of service as a 06 Bird Crane.
Mr. Murphy, what was it that made you originally interested in military service?
Well, I come from a large background, strong military legacy. My grandfather served in World War II as a heavy machine gunner, Bronze Star recipient. I had countless uncles that served from Korea War all the way through. My father served in Vietnam and then served after that in the National Guard here locally. My brother, while I was in my high school years, he had graduated high school and joined the National Guard during Desert Shield, Desert Storm. And then I just knew that's what I always wanted to do, really. And my dad told me, son, I've experienced the difference between some of the branches during his time in the Army, and he told me, if you join the Air Force. And that's what I did. I'm glad that I did, and I've enjoyed that service.
Mr. Matika, are there unique qualities about our community that makes military service appealing?
I believe so. Cookeville and the Upper Cumberland here in Tennessee is very unique in my time of service. You'll find most of the local communities are not as welcoming of military personnel. I was actually stationed here in the 90s, and it was a pleasant surprise coming in here and being stationed here as an advisor to the National Guard Squadron of all the things that the community does to support the military. The high school JRTC programs, the Veterans Day programs, the Memorial Day programs. They actually have a building in town called the Veterans Building. You have the Veterans Hall here in Cookeville. The programs like you put on here at the high school to support the veterans. The coming of the wall that came down here, the Wall of Remembrance. Those are things that a lot of communities don't support and advocate for. So coming into this region, Cookeville particularly, was very welcoming for military and their whole families. And that's one of the reasons why I retired back here when I had the opportunity of the places I've served. This is the place I came back to because it was so welcoming.
Mr. Smith, how do you feel like you personally grew during your service in the military?
I think the biggest thing that I did was grow up, but leadership and teamwork and just being flexible in how you approach stuff. I came in as a second lieutenant who didn't know anything, learned that there were people in my organization that had been doing my job a lot longer than I had, and that to be successful you had to lean on them and learn from them. Flexibility in that no plan goes according to how it is. The plan's just a jumping off point. When you get out to doing whatever your mission is or whatever your job is, you're going to find stuff that you're not ready for, you didn't think was possible, and you just have to be flexible enough to be able to think outside of the box to get the job done. And I think the military gave me a good grasp on that.
Colonel Parham, did you acquire any skills in the military that continue to serve you throughout your life?
Yeah, I think the biggest skill that I acquired was leadership. You see, leadership is the essential element in success. And while in service, I received a BS degree through the Veterans Program, the GI Bill. Cost me nothing to get the degree. After being back in the military and in a few later years, I was transferred to the 95th Infantry Division in Louisiana. And there I had the opportunity to enroll with LSU. So I did. And 3 years later, I obtained an MS degree from LSU. So what I have taken from the military is getting an education. Later in my military career, I went to various schools, the military schools that were offered, such as the logistics school in Fort Lee, Virginia. There I got a degree and came out a logistician, beans and bullets, so to speak. Then I decided I'd change branches, so I changed branches to the infantry. And I went through the advanced infantry officers course at Fort Benning, Georgia. And then another school I went to was the Commanding Staff General College, where I graduated from that at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. So what I've taken from the military is getting an education, and they have sponsored my entire education. And I became an instructor in the latter part of my career, and of course I take that with me in civilian life. I was also a professor at Tennessee Tech later years.
Mr. Murphy, prior to your military service, did you feel that this was a strongly patriotic community?
Absolutely. I mentioned earlier that my father was in the National Guard. He was actually the retention NCO for the Cookeville and surrounding area National Guard units. And him and my brother, I remember, got to come to Cookeville High School and do a presentation on the gas mask and the training that they were going through to prepare for the dangers that awaited them in Desert Storm. And so we also, you could drive around in 90 through 92 especially, you could drive around town and you would see proud to be an American bumper stickers like crazy, and you would see ribbons tied on people's trees. And you all may be familiar with Lee Greenwood, who wrote the song Proud to Be an American, which is extremely popular today and became popular during that time. Lee Greenwood came to Cookeville High School. Don't know why or how that ended up happening, but I was able to get Lee Greenwood's autograph inside my senior yearbook the year I was going into the Air Force. The sense of patriotism, you could feel it in the air, and it was just absolutely amazing. And then just to transition from that just a little bit, to see where it kind of started, that sense of patriotism during that time. Although Cookeville in this area has always been very patriotic, I don't see that it's really tapered off. As Colonel Matika was saying earlier with the Veterans Day programs and Memorial Day, we have two mayors, Mayor Ricky Shelton and Randy Porter, that are phenomenal at infusing patriotism into this community, and I'm so thankful for them. To have the Run for the Wall is a motorcycle ride that starts in California, and motorcyclists come all the way across. Those motorcyclists have said when they stop and spend the night in Cookeville, it's one of their greatest senses of patriotism of any community that they stop at. And then the last thing I want to say is all the different veterans organizations we have in town are phenomenal in how we help each other, from the American Legion and the VFW and Vietnam veterans and AMVETS, American Vets, and Disabled American Veterans. And I'm sure I'm leaving out some, but there's so many. And it's a great way to still stay involved and connected and have that sense of camaraderie even today.
Mr. Matika, how does your family view your military service, and how do they choose to honor your experiences, memories, and feelings?
Well, I think my family is very proud. They went with me willingly through a number of years of my military service. I moved them 13 times in about 15 years. And I think they took that as an opportunity to make new friendships everywhere they went. The military, particularly when you're serving overseas, is kind of a community unto itself. And you have that little sense of family you're bringing with you when you're serving overseas. But even here in the States, in a lot of military bases, you're separated from your extended family, and you have your spouse and your children with you, and you have your military family, and you kind of feed off that. You make friendships. My wife, from the first assignment we had together in Germany in 1985, she still corresponds with them today. They share quilt pictures they make on Facebook and stuff like that. So your military service, your family's part of that, and they kind of grow with you as you grow up in service. You take them with you when you go. We couldn't do it without them. They're a big part of it. I think they're very proud of our service, but again, I'm very proud of them and their support of me as well, and that they're willing to go with me to the different places and not just endure it, but actually grow and thrive in it, I guess is a way to say it. Make it their own.
Mr. Smith, was your transition from military back to civilian life a challenge, or was it relatively easy?
It was a little bit of both. I decided at the 10-year point in the military, you need to decide whether you're staying in or whether you're getting out. Because if you go past 10 years, you're so close to retirement that it doesn't make sense not to stay. I love the Air Force. I love my job. It was my dream job, still is my dream job, but it came down to family. Like Chuck was saying, your family takes a hit when you're in the military just because you're gone. And I was looking at being gone for a good chunk of the remaining part of my service. And so I decided to put family first and come home. Well, having said that, when you get out, I had no job. My wife had no job. We didn't know where we were going. I had saved up enough leave that I had 3 months of pay from the military. So when I got out, I still had 3 months of pay. So we came to Tennessee because I knew I wanted to come back to Tennessee. And my dad lives in Franklin and my mom lives in Cookeville. And my dad didn't have internet, my mom had internet. So we stayed with my mom while we were looking for jobs. Never expected to end up in Cookeville permanent. But we liked the area, we liked the people, and we both found jobs here, so we ended up staying in Cookeville. Part of the thing that helped was just the community as a whole. It was very pro-military. I was able to get in both the local VFW and the American Legion, and so I was around people, other veterans, and so that helped the transition. So it was a little bit scary, but overall it could have gone a whole lot worse.
Colonel Parham, tell us about the most interesting assignment that you experienced while in the military.
Being in the service, I have been in some 20 plus installations and bases in the military. So I think perhaps the most interesting part was the 2 years I spent in Georgia as a training officer. It was I guess, satisfying and interesting to see so many young city kids turned out and molded into great, strong leadership capacity individuals. So I would probably say the opportunities are unlimited as far as this goes, and the military can do great wonders for us.
Mr. Murphy, now that you know about the good and the challenges of military, what advice would you give someone who is pondering military service?
It's a great question. So, of course, I served as an active duty Air Force recruiter for 4 years, and that was a question that I had to answer many times for people that
a branch of service, and especially for moms who were scared for their children to join a branch of service. And I can say without any doubt that it's been the proudest decision I have ever made in my life to join and serve this great nation. Some of the challenges is dealing with being away from home and feeling like you are putting your life in risk and danger, but I believe that the risk greatly outweigh the rewards. Reverse that. The rewards greatly outweigh the risk, because those rewards are keeping our country what it is and what it was founded to be. To support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, means we're going to strive to keep the foundation that has made America the country that it is today. And that is worth the sacrifice, without any doubt whatsoever. In the past, there has been challenges through VA with the Veterans Association with disability and people coming out that are injured or struggling mentally with PTSD and those types of things. I can say with President Trump's administration, those challenges and concerns have been greatly changed to the good. There are so many better programs to help veterans today, and through the organizations I mentioned earlier, and through AMVETS and American Legion and the VFW and the Disabled American Vets are there to help those veterans transition from military to civilian life like never before, really. And so I see a lot of benefits on the backside of the military of getting out today that have never been around. And I still see so many good things and so many great programs for those that are wanting to go in. And just, again, serving that flag and standing up for it is the way I believe that we should be in America.
Mr. Matika, how did your family feel about your service in the military?
Very much like Mr. Murphy talked about it, moms and something like that. My mother was initially very nervous when I joined the military. I didn't come from a family with a military background. I had some distant relatives that served in World War II and were in the military during the Korean conflict, but they were stationed in Europe at the time. So my immediate family had no experience with military service. I was fortunate. I know most enlisted guys comes, you can't believe anything the recruiter says, but my recruiter did talk to my mother and put her concerns at ease. I mean, he was very professional and a very competent individual, and I think it eased her concerns a great deal. She also saw the benefit that it would enable me to finish college, that nothing else was going to help me finish college, and that was the way I was going to do it. So that eased the bit. In my case, the recruiter, and then the benefits that would come, and the patriotic service, and that it does instill discipline, confidence, leadership, good qualities in all that can successfully serve in the military. There's really not a lot of downside from it. There's all good that come from service in the military.
Mr. Smith, what was one particular military experience that you remember that taught you a great life lesson?
When I deployed to Afghanistan, I deployed as a single person. I didn't go with any of my unit. And so when I got there, I worked with Army, Navy, we had Air Force, we had Guard, active duty, reserve. And so you had to learn how to fit into a team and how to work with them. Part of that is we traveled a bunch. And at the time when you were in Afghanistan, you did convoys. And so as a captain at the time in the Air Force, if you would have told me that I would have been part of a convoy, first of all, and second of all, the jobs that I did in the convoy, I wouldn't have believed you. Based on rank, I would have fit more in the role of a truck commander or convoy commander, which I did both of those. I was also a driver. But the majority of my time that we were moving, I was a gunner in a convoy. And that's not something, at least on the Air Force side, and as a captain, that you think you're ever going to do. And I learned that you need to fit the team. What you think you are and what you think your role is not always what the team needs. And so you have to adjust to what the team needs and how you can best fit in. And at that point in time, it was for me to be a gunner and a convoy. And so just flexibility. Each of the branches has their own saying, and it's basically the same. The Air Force's flexibility is the key to air power. And just being able to keep an open mind and to just be ready to do what needs to be done to get the job done.
Colonel Parham, looking back on your service, what advice would you give us in how best to remember and honor the brave men and women who have served our nation in uniform so very well?
Hang tough, stay with it. You can succeed. It's not an easy life by any means, but you can succeed.
Cookeville High School would like to recognize the various branches of the military with the Armed Forces Salute and the presentation of the Armed Forces Service Flags. We ask that everyone please recognize our great veterans and the service in which they served as we display the service flags. United States Army. United States Marines. United States Navy. United States Air Force. United States Coast Guard. While Veterans Day is primarily a tribute to America's living veterans, we would like to include a moment of silence for those who gave their lives for our country. Would you please stand and join me as we pay a tribute to these wonderful American patriots? Would everyone please join me in a moment of silence?
This concludes our Veterans Day observance program. Thank you once again for being our guest and helping us honor the veterans who have fought for our freedoms. We salute all veterans, and we will appreciate your sacrifices today as we pay tribute to America's amazing military veterans.
A special thank you to our JROTC cadets, band, and chorus for participating in today's program. A special thank you to our Senator-elect, Bill Haggerty, and our principal, Mr. Max Pettit, for the great opening remarks. And to Mr. Jason Murphy, Mr. Chuck Mateka, Mr. Scott Smith, and Colonel Bobby Parham for participating in our panel discussion.
Thank you again, and please take every opportunity this year to personally recognize and thank our community's great American veterans for their service to our country. God bless you all, and God bless the United States.